Hi, this is Martin and welcome to this video in which I'm looking at this system that I'm working on at the moment. I've been working on it for a few months now. Although it's going to be a long video, it's going to be a fairly quick overview of the functionality that is in the system thus far. There is still a lot more to do, but this is to show colleagues and our sponsor where we are at the moment. So when we log into the system, we're going to check the serial number and the number of users to make sure the serial number is valid, that it's still within date and it's of a valid serial number that we recognize, and also to make sure that we're not exceeding the number of licensed users. Now, if you go into setting up the system for the first time, there is a system configuration window where we can set the maximum user count. We can see the current number of users that are logged into the system, the application serial number, and other information about the release. You can also set up your agency details, so your head office address, contact details, bank details, etc. This will be used on printed material mostly, so invoices and quotations. We then have preferences. So the system doesn't actually do this at the moment. There's some advanced coding that needs to be done, but there is going to be a property matching module in here which will match contacts to properties. So how often do you want to run that search? The system is also going to be logging all data changes that are made. So how often do you want to archive that log? Because obviously it will grow fairly quickly. And you can also set up any terms and conditions for quotations and invoices. And also there are a number of general preferences that are going to be set. Now this list is growing, so I've got a horrible grey background at the moment, but that will be tidied up later. So we can set the default VAT rate. We can set the viewing follow-up, so how many days after a viewing do we want to follow up with people, and the quotation markup, what percentage do we want to add. So these will be the default values that will be applied throughout the system, and of course you'll be able to override those if you need to. Also within the system configuration, you have the ability to create employee records. Now it's not an HR system, but there are some basic information in here. So we've got the employee's address and their contact information and how they like to be referred to. We've also got a summary of any mileage claims that have been submitted, and we'll come to those in a moment. Some basic employment details, so their login details, when they started, etc., who they report to, and the dates that, or the days that they usually work. That's going to be used in the future for running calendar to see when people are available for appointments, etc. Any holiday requests that have been made and authorized, any activities, communications, and there's also a management only module which includes some disciplinary records. So if you are having to discipline an employee, you can completely track the meeting, the follow-up, the employee's reaction to it, etc. I'm not going to go into that because there's some confidential bits and pieces in there for management only, so I'm not actually going to go in there at the moment. So mileage claims, these are all of the claims that have been made by this employee or that are set up for the employee yet to claim. Now, throughout the system with these edit tables, there's blue underlined text here. If you double click that, it will open up the data record in what we call edit mode. So here you can see the date of this mileage claim, the employee and the property that it links to, the reason for it, the allocated miles. So basically management allocated 1 mile for this, the actual miles traveled, which is inputted by the user when they've actually finished the meeting, and then you get your claim value, who authorized it, and when it was paid. So you've got a full history of all of your expense claims in the system by employee. Also products. There were a number of products that you will need to set up within your system. So these could be actual physical products that you're selling, or they could be services. In this instance, this is a professional photographer shoot. So you can set up a part number, description, and then some costs, and you can make sure that your markup is appropriate. UDF codes. Throughout the system there are drop downs such as this one, which will give you a pick list, Now, within the system, it doesn't allow users to add new codes or new descriptions. That is to stop duplication, to stop people putting inappropriate values in, spelling mistakes, etc. However, that could block the user from continuing. So within the system, there is the ability for a user to request a new code, and they can do that by simply explaining what the code description is, the reason for the new code, where it's used, the control it's used, and the record that they were updating when they wanted to use the code. And then there's controls within the system as you expect. So who requested it, the date they requested it, when it was actioned, or when it was declined. So you've got full tracking of codes within the system. So within the configuration window, you can see all of the requested codes that haven't been actioned thus far, and a database administrator or a manager can make a call on whether that code should be added or not, or whether an existing code would be better used. System codes you don't need to worry about. That button will be deleted before this goes live. That is system codes that the system uses rather than user defined. So when you first come into the system, you're presented with your hot list. So we've got a number of buttons at the top here. The first four buttons are the main entities within the system. So we've got the hot list, contacts, properties, and mortgages. The smaller buttons are the data entry windows that relate to those. So when we first come in, we are presented with our task list, and you can see all of the tasks that are currently due. I can click on this button, which will give just my tasks, and that will then filter down this list. Or I can see all of the tasks that are due for a particular colleague. So if Jay is on holiday or off sick today, I can see what he was supposed to be doing today. I can also filter by type. So what valuations have we got in the pipeline? What meetings have we got set, etc. So if we look on evaluations, then you can see that we've got one valuation that is due. And again, we've got the ability to filter on employees, refresh lists, and look at the data in different ways. And on these buttons, you'll see the little red number that will tell you how many records are relevant. So for inspections, we've got one inspection that is due this week. For the maintenance, you can see that we've got 15 maintenance jobs that have not yet been completed for some reason. Viewings, you can see that we've got 3 viewings that are set. Now, throughout the system, as I said before, you can double click on any of the items to open up the data entry window for modification or just lookup purposes. The next one over is contacts. These are all the contacts that we have in the system. So this just gives you some summary information. And if we were to, again, double click to open up the data entry record, then you can see all of the information that we capture about contacts. So their address, if they're a contractor, their contractor details, whether they're a preferred contractor, any registrations, so they might be gas safe or electric safe, how to contact them, obviously. And then we've also got the ability to add third-party details. This is probably more relevant to people that are buying houses or tenants. So you've got the employer's contact details, their current salary, or the last known salary. And we can also link in their accountant, their mortgage advisor, and their solicitor. So these are the professional individuals that this contact might deal with. So if we want to contact their accountant for some reason, we can do that very quickly and easily from here. If they're a landlord, then we can see any previous landlords for this contact and any previous landlord notes. We can see the status. So are they a cash buyer, or are they an investor? Are they a landlord, a tenant, whatever? Whether they've got a property to dispose of, the reason for moving, timescales, and any properties that they own. So that would be more for landlords. Any tasks that have been linked to this particular contact. And then we've also got validation. Now, validation is important. It's something that the FSA require, so we can see the status. So whether it's been completed, who completed it, when, if there's any validation for the Financial Service Authority, so what's the status, action taken, or who took it, and why, and then who the contact name was at the FSA that we've been dealing with. And you'll see throughout the system as well, this little magnifying glass with the green cross. There's only so many notes that you can put in here. So if I open up this one over here, validation right to live documents, obviously it's truncated. If we click on that, then you can view even more information, and you can add information, and you can save that back. So this is more about making good use of the screen space, because there are a lot of controls on some of these windows. If we're doing a validation and we've checked everything off, then we can just very quickly click on the blue underlined text. Now, the blue underlined text indicates that it's going to do something. So sometimes it will set the date to today rather than having to look up a specific date. Other times it will do other things that are obviously relevant. Requirements. This is where you set up the requirements for this contact when they're looking for a property. So what is the minimum that they want to spend? What's the maximum they want to spend? Is there a particular county that they want to live in? The property type. So I want to include cottages. The tenure type. I want it to be freehold, or you don't want it to be something. The rooms. How many rooms? Do you want to have a conservatory? Now, the more information you actually put into this screen, the fewer hits or the fewer matches you're going to have, because all of these items will need to match the characteristics of a property. So this is a way of getting some really good qualified leads. So if you get a property that you take on your books, the system can go away, it will search all the contacts and see which ones match, and then that gives you a list of people that you might want to contact and therefore sell more properties. These are just marketing preferences. So how does the contact like to be contacted? Any documents that are linked to this particular contact, any communications that we've had with this contact, and any mortgage applications that we've got going on with this particular contact as well. The next button over is properties. Now, properties are a massive part of the system, as you can probably imagine. So this is a very busy module. And the first window that we are presented with is the property address, some summary details, and the market values, or the last known market values for this particular property. We can see when it was last sold and the price it was sold for, and we can see the date that it was last valued. When we've got a record that is open and saved, the property panel over here becomes available to us, and this captures a whole load of information about the characteristics of that particular property. And you'll see that there are some values and there are some occasions where there are just 3 dots. If there's a value or 3 dots, we can click on the selection, click on the button to open up the window, and then we will get additional information about that particular characteristic. And all these windows are different. Some are very small, some are more involved. Let's just cancel there. I'm not going to go through all of those because we will be here all day. Any tasks that are linked to this particular property, any valuations that have been undertaken, any viewings and offers. So these are the number of viewings that have been done on this property, and these are the offers. Quite useful, because if you have got an offer from somebody for this particular property, you can very quickly go in here and see, oh, okay, the amount that you're offering has already been rejected. So you might want to review your offer. Any inspections, again, this is for rentals more than anything else. So monthly, quarterly, annual inspections, any documents that are linked to the property, any communications, and then we've got the matching engine, which isn't working yet. On valuations, if we were to open up one of these valuations, now this is an old valuation, so it's warning me that we might not want to modify it. I'll just accept OK to that particular message. But this is a valuation that has been done in the past. Now we can go in and edit this, but the idea is that you wouldn't edit it because it gives you a snapshot in time. If you were to update the characteristics, then the characteristics on the property window are automatically updated as well. but this will give you a snapshot of this property. So let's say that this property is a 4-bedroom house. You save it. We then come in later on and create a new valuation, maybe a year or 2 later, and we find that 2 of those rooms have been knocked in and it's now a 3-bedroom house. So this record will still show it as a 4. On the property window, it will show it as a 3, and on the new valuation, it will show it as a 3. So what we're trying to do here is build up a complete history of your relationship with people and properties. The next button over is mortgages. So this will show you any mortgage applications that you've got open in the system. So you could see that where people have not quite had a mortgage offer yet, and you can capture information from the mortgage advisor. So let's look at those windows in a little bit more detail. These are the data entry windows now. So for a task list, this is where you will set up a task. So you give it a type, title, and location, and you can link it to properties and contacts. You can set the times and dates, reminders, and the status. Now the reminders aren't working at the moment. That's something that will be done down the line. And we can also put in as much free text as you like with regards to the detail. We've also got the ability for meetings to add additional people if we want to. Now there will be a email module which is being written at the moment. So when you save this record, so if we're saving a new task, new meeting, for instance, the system will prompt you to say, do you want to email people with the meeting details? And it will bring these details and also the who it's been assigned to and who it's been linked to, bring all of those details through to email those individual people. So if we just come out of there, the next one over is the contacts window, which we had a look at. We've also got the property window, again, which we looked at, and we've also got the property viewing. So this is where you're going out and doing a viewing. So you can set up the viewing in here and you can link it to properties, the vendor and the prospect. Also any other people that are attending the viewing. So you might want to know who's been in this house at any one time. The vendor might want to know, police might want to know, FSA might want to know, anybody. You've got all of that information in there. You can see whether it is an open house viewing, and you can also see whether the keys are required. So you don't want to ruck up for a viewing and find that you needed the keys and they were back in the office. And of course, you can then set the outcome of the viewing down the bottom here. You can also see previous viewings and offers. So again, that information is just pulled through. So you can see how many people have been viewing this particular property and other information. So we just do no there. The next one over is property inspections. This is mostly for rentals where you're doing a monthly, quarterly, 6 monthly, yearly inspection. So you get your report details. You can link to the hard copy reports if you're filling a form while you're out. You then got your external details, so details about the front garden, etc. If there isn't one, you can just click to say that it's not applicable, or you can put some detail into here. Now, if we're putting detail into here, so this is my detail, if we run out of space, the information will be truncated because you can only get to the end of the line. That doesn't mean you're only limited by this amount of space. Wherever you see a magnifying glass, you can click on that and you can put in as much detail in here as you want. And you can also, when you've added the detail, you can save the record and that will write back. So if I was to go in here and I just put 3 X's in and we'll save that, you'll see that the edit line has been updated. So that's the same throughout the system. So internal reports and any general notes. General notes is fairly consistent throughout the system. It's quite important to know where the keys are. Quite a lot of agents just have it in a lock cupboard or in a drawer, which I've seen occasionally. The system enables you to create a key set. Now you can either use the record ID or you could use a key tag number. You give the key set a description, how many keys are on the key set, who holds the keys, and any other general notes that you want to. So that sets up the key set. But then in the bottom here, where we have this grid, you can then add a new row and say that this key set was checked out on the 21st of August. Who was it checked out to? Sorry, who was it checked out by? Who was it checked out to? That's just free text. The reason, this could be a viewing, and when you're expecting it back. So I'm expecting it back tomorrow on the 21st. You can then check that in, and you know who it was checked in by. So this gives you full history and traceability for all of your key sets that you are responsible for. The next one over is certificates, and this is mainly for rentals. So you can set up a certificate, you can set up a notice period date. So if you've got 30 in there, what that is going to do is 30 days before it is due to expire, this reminder will go into your hot list. You can see who last issued the certificate. So this might be the individual that you might want to contact for this certificate to be renewed. You can also make a link to the actual certificate itself. Funny looking certificate, but this is just a rubbish data in here. So you can set up the document details, which is basically the creation date, the type of document, and where it is on disk. Click on the button and it will take you out to Explorer to see where that particular document is. And then you can link the document to properties, contacts, and obviously the certificate itself if you wish to. So that's your certificates. You've also got property maintenance, so work that needs to be done on the house. And again, this is quite a busy module. So in this particular instance, you can see when the maintenance request was reported and who reported it and how. And we can also see the status and the follow-up details so that we make sure that things are happening when they should be happening. You've got your job description and your specific location, so you know exactly where it was. So it might be that there's a leaking tap in the downstairs bathroom as opposed to the upstairs bathroom. Any interested parties, so this would be the tenant, because obviously you're going to need to let them know how things are progressing, when the engineers or the contractors coming in to do the first assessment, when the repair is going to be done, etc. You've also got the landlord, obviously they need to authorize any expenditure, and then the contractor to tell them to go out and have a look at it, get the quotes, do the work, etc. And to keep you informed, you can see very quickly whether this is a preferred contractor or whether the contractor has been blacklisted. That's probably the more important one. You've also got this property grid over here, which gives you more information. So the date that we were informed about the issue, the inspection, initial inspection that would normally be done by an employee of the agent, who does the inspection report need to go to? So that would then be emailed out to that individual. The contractor quote, whether it's been requested, has it been received, how much is it, how much does our markup want to be, whether it was sent for authorization, and whether it has been authorized. And you've got your complete workflow right the way through to the repair details and through to the invoice being raised and settled. Again, you can add any documents here. So this might be some photographs of the issue. It could be the copy of the quotation. Whatever you want to add, you can add into there. The next one over is heating services. So heating systems that need to be serviced. It works very much the same way as the maintenance, except it's for a heating service. And again, you've got your workflow over here to manage the whole process. Mortgage applications, this is where you have got an individual that needs a mortgage. So basically what we're going to do here is set the contact details, any other interested parties, the mortgage details, so the current mortgage lender, the date it started, finance details, any deposit that's been available, and any other lenders that this particular contact may well have approached. You've got the employer information is pulled through, the accountant information, any insurances, and the meeting details. So this is if you want to set up a meeting, and then you can click the email button, and then it will email people to say that the meeting has been set up. That's not actually configured yet. That's something that is yet to be done. The next button over is the email module, and this is a module that's being worked on at the moment, but it will enable you to set some information here. So who the email is going to go to, we can link it to a property, we can give it a subject, and we can just type in some body text, so my email, and you can add in my signature in here, and then you will be able to do send, and it will send that email. Alternatively, you can configure a library of templates, and you can just simply attach or drop in the text from that template into the body text, and you can also add a signature. So this is a quotation, and drop a signature in and then send that. You can show all signatures for all users, or you can filter them by a user. And for the body text, you can show all email templates, or you can filter them by email types. So I've only got mortgage meetings in here at the moment, but you'll be able to find your templates very quickly and easily. Like I said, this is a module that is going to be continue to be developed, so it's not quite live at the moment. People will be making phone calls throughout the day, and this little window enables you to capture the details of that particular phone call and to link them to a contact and a property. So again, this is building up that history. And the next one over is employees. So this is the employee view. The one that we looked at before was the manager's view. So this is the employee's view. So if I just grab any old record in here, then anybody within the business can look up and find my contact details. They can see any tasks and any communication. So if I'm away, they can see what tasks I need to do. They can also see what communications I've had. So if they're taking a phone call while I'm out of the office, they can very quickly and easily see what was said. Lots of different ways of getting to that information throughout the system, as you would expect. This is a mileage expense claim from the employee's point of view, so exactly the same as for the manager's point of view. We've then got holiday requests. So very simply, your employee number, date from, date to, whether it's been authorised, the date it was authorised, and any notes. So very straightforward. And the last one that we're going to look at today is going to be the schools. Now, this is quite an intensive module for keeping up to date, but people that are buying houses or renting properties, they do like to know what schools are in the catchment area. This module will come empty, but you can set up a school, the characteristics of the school, ages of children, the gender, the number of pupils, etc. And then on the local postcodes, you can set up the postcode and the road name and the distance to the school from that particular road. So the idea here is that as you are going along and you add a new postcode into the system and you happen to know that Harold Primary is in the catchment area, then you can set that up in here if you wish to. Like I said, it's quite a labour intensive module, but it's there if people wish to use it. The very last one is the system codes window, which we looked at earlier. So that's where I'm at the moment. A lot in there. There's still an awful lot to be done. I've got the email module to finish up. I've got forward thinking to continue to build on. We've got quotes and invoices to do. And then we also need to look at the rental side as well. So for arranging rentals with landlords and tenants and the like. So still lots to be done, but that's where we're at the moment. Sorry for the length of this video, but thank you very much for watching.